war between India and Pakistan. After the South Asian rebels agreed a ceasefire following a series of clashes, which stopped a nuclear conflict, I think it could have been a bad nuclear war. Millions of people could have been killed. So I am very proud of that, Trump tells reporters at the White House.
I think a permanent one between India and Pakistan, ending a dangerous conflict of two nations with lots of nuclear weapons. And they were going at it hot and heavy, and it was seemingly not going to stop. And I'm very proud to let you know that the leadership of India and Pakistan was unwavering, powerful, but unwavering in both cases, and having these, they really were, from the standpoint of having the strength and the wisdom and fortitude to fully know and to understand the gravity of the situation. And we helped a lot. And we helped also with trade. I said, come on, we're going to do a lot of trade with you guys. Let's stop it. Let's stop it. If you stop it, we're doing trade. If you don't stop it, we're not going to do any trade. People have never really used trade the way I used it. That I can tell you. And all of a sudden they said, I think we're going to stop. And they have. And they did it for a lot of reasons. But trade is a big one. We're going to do a lot of trade with Pakistan. We're going to do a lot of trade with India. We're negotiating with India right now. We're going to be soon negotiating with Pakistan. And we stopped the nuclear conflict. I think it could have been a bad nuclear war. I think a permanent one between India and Pakistan, ending a dangerous conflict of two nations with lots of nuclear.
Pakistan's Finance Minister Mohammad Aurangzeb said the water should not be weaponized. And the Indus Basin in agriculture is Pakistan's backbone following recent military escalation with India. The comments were made in an interview with the media on Monday after India's Operation Sindoor in Pakistan and POK. Yeah, I think that sort of unilateral announcement. Now this goes back to a treaty back into the 60s, which is World Bank brokered agreement. And therefore, quite frankly, you have had our stance very loud and clear that unilateral withdrawal has no legal basis. Water should not be weaponized, and therefore, that's our government stance. And of course, it has implications for us, the Indus Basin and Pakistan's agriculture. That's our backbone. And that's towards roughly 80% of the country's irrigated land, roughly 90% of our, food basket.
Our stance very loud and clear that it's that unilateral withdrawal has no legal basis. Water should not be weaponized. It has implications for us. The Indus Basin in Pakistan's agriculture, that's our backbone that supports roughly 80% of the country's irrigated land. First of all, we welcome the ceasefire, which has been led by and brokered by President Trump. And therefore, it's been a sort of a short duration escalation. It's good to see things moving towards the norm. So at this point in time, I do not see any large fiscal fallout coming out of it. And if you've seen the stock market rebound today, the big drop that we saw in Friday has been more than well covered in the PSX today. So from my perspective, at this point in time, we don't see it as a major issue and can be very much accommodated within the fiscal space which is available to the government of Pakistan. We'll do whatever is required to be done. Talking about budget, which is still about 3-4 weeks away, would be premature. But whatever we need to do in terms of ensuring that our defense requirements are met, will be met. IMF discussions will take place on time. It doesn't matter whether it's here or virtual. The schedule which is there between the 14th and the 23rd very much stays intact. Yeah, I think that sort of unilateral announcement. Now, this goes back to a treaty back into the 60s, which is World Bank brokered agreement. And therefore, quite frankly, you have heard our stance very loud and clear that it's that unilateral withdrawal has no legal basis. Water should not be weaponized. And therefore, I mean, that's our government stance. And of course, it has implications for us. The Indus Basin in Pakistan's agriculture, I mean, that's our backbone. And that supports roughly 80% of the country's irrigated.
The United States and China agreed Monday to slash the massive recent tariffs, restarting stalled trade between the world's two biggest economies and setting off a rally in global financial markets. But the de-escalation in President Donald Trump's trade wars did nothing to resolve underlying differences between Beijing and Washington. The deal lasts 90 days, creating time for US and Chinese negotiators to reach a more substantive agreement. But the pause also leaves tariffs higher than before Trump started ramping them up last month, and businesses and investors must contend with the uncertainty about whether the truce will last. US Trade Representative Jamieson Greer said the US agreed to drop the 145% tax Trump imposed last month to 30%. China agreed to lower its tariff rate on US goods to 10% from 125%.
Fully open China. And I think it's going to be fantastic for China. I think it's going to be fantastic for us. And I think it's going to be great for... We achieved a total reset with China after productive talks in Geneva. Both sides now agreed to reduce the tariffs imposed after April 2nd to 10% for 90 days as negotiators continue in the largest structural issues. And I want to tell you that a couple of things. First of all, that doesn't include the tariffs that are already on, that are our tariffs, and it doesn't include tariffs on cars, steel, aluminum, things such as that, or tariffs that may be imposed on pharmaceuticals, because we want to bring the pharmaceutical businesses back to the United States, and they're already starting to come back now based on tariffs. The talks in Geneva were very friendly. The relationship is very good. We're not looking to hurt China. China was being hurt very badly. They were closing up factories. They were having a lot of unrest. And they were very happy to be able to do something with us. And the relationship is very, very good. I'll speak to President Xi maybe at the end of the week. And they've agreed to open China, fully open China. And I think it's going to be fantastic for China. I think it's going to be fantastic for us. And I think it's...
Pope Leo XIV calls for the release of journalists jailed for seeking and reporting the truth. The former Robert Francis Prevost, the first US Pope, speaking at an introductory audience with the media at the start of his first full week in the role after being elected by cardinals.
Allora di ribadire ai giornalisti incarcerati per aver cercato a raccontare la verità. E con queste parole anche chiedere la liberazione di questi giornalisti incarcerati. La Chiesa riconosce in questi testimoni, penso a coloro che raccontano la guerra anche a costo della vita, il coraggio di chi difende la dignità, la giustizia e il diritto dei popoli a essere informati, perché solo i popoli informati possono fare scelte libere. Permettetemi allora di ribadire.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer vows to finally take back control of UK borders as the unveils his government's landmark policy aimed at cutting the number of people arriving in the country as anti-immigration parties surge in the polls.
Good morning. Today we publish a white paper on immigration, a strategy absolutely central to my plan for change that will finally take back control of our borders and close the book on a squalid chapter for our politics, our economy, and our country. Take back control. Everyone knows that slogan, and everyone knows what it meant on immigration, or at least that's what people thought. Because what followed from the previous government, starting with the people who used that slogan, was the complete opposite. Between 2019 and 2023, even as they were going round our country, telling people with a straight face that they would get immigration down, net migration quadrupled until in 2023 it reached nearly 1 million. That's about the population of Birmingham, our second largest city. That's not control, it's chaos. And look, they must answer for themselves. But I don't think that you can do something like that by accident. It was a choice made even as they told you, told the country, they were doing the opposite. A one-nation experiment in open borders, conducted on a country that voted for control. Well, no more. Today, this Labour government is shutting down the lab. The experiment is over. We will deliver what you've asked for time and again, and we will take back control of our borders. And let me tell you why. Because I know, on a day like today, people who like politics will try to make this all about politics, about this or that strategy, targeting these voters, responding to that party. No. I'm doing this because it is right, because it is fair, and because it is what I believe in. Let me put it this way. Nations depend on rules, fair rules. Sometimes they're written down, often they're not. But either way, they give shape to our values, guide us towards our rights, of course.
President Zelensky has offered to meet President Putin for peace negotiations in Istanbul after President Trump urged Ukraine to accept a Russian offer of a direct talks. Zelensky's offer came just hours after he had said there could be no talks with Moscow unless it agreed to a truce across the 600-mile front. The very first step in truly ending any war is a ceasefire, he said.
Багато сьогодні було дипломатичної роботи і нашої з партнерами, і комунікації між партнерами на підтримку для нас. Від завтра очікуємо на припинення вогню. Ця пропозиція на столі – повне і безумовне припинення вогню, тривале, щоб дати необхідну основу дипломатії, може значно наблизити мир. Україна давно це пропонує. Партнери пропонують. Увесь світ про це каже. Очікуємо на ясну відповідь від Росії. Війну Росії все одно доведеться закінчувати. Вбивства повинні закінчитись. Українські сили готові будуть реагувати дзеркально, щоб це було чесно. Ми неодноразово чули від партнерів, що вони готові посилювати санкції проти Росії, якщо Путін відмовиться від припинення вогню. Побачимо. І у нас в Україні немає жодної проблеми вести перемовини. Ми готові до будь-яких форматів. Багато сьогодні було дипломатичних.
Former US President Donald Trump has expressed his interest in traveling to Turkey to participate in upcoming peace negotiations between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Scheduled for May 15, Trump suggested his presence would be contingent on its potential to facilitate a resolution to the ongoing conflict. Ukrainian President Zelensky has confirmed his attendance and welcomed Trump's involvement, while Russian officials have yet to confirm Putin's participation.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. It's a big day. Thursday's meeting with Russia and Ukraine is very important. I was very insistent that that meeting take place. I think good things can come out of that meeting. Stop the bloodshed of the horrible. It's a bloodbath. Don't underestimate Thursday in Turkey. President Erdogan is going to be a great host, and we are doing some work with him having to do with Syria, too, by the way. We're going to have to make a decision on the sanctions, which we may very well relieve. We may take them off of Syria because we want to give them a fresh start. In all parts of the European Union, but I think you're going to have maybe a good meeting. You have the potential for a good meeting, that a meeting wasn't going to take place. I insisted that that meeting take place, and it is taking place. And I think you may have a good result out of the Thursday meeting in Turkey between Russia and Ukraine. And I believe the two leaders were going to be there. I was thinking about flying over. I don't know where I'm going to be on Thursday. I've got so many meetings. But I was thinking about actually flying over there. There's a possibility of it, I guess, if I think things can happen. But we got to get it done. We got to save 5,000 lives a week. 5,000. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. It's a big day.
The PKK Kurdish militant group has announced it will disband and formally end its armed struggle against the Turkish state in a significant move towards ending one of the world's longest running and deadliest insurgencies.
Almış olduğu karar bence tarihi ve önemli bir karar. Özellikle kalıcı barış ve istikrarın bölgemizde hakim olması açısından ben bu kararı oldukça önemli görüyorum. Tabii bu kararın alınmasından sonra atılacak pratik adımlar var. Onları da yakından takip edeceğiz. Türkiye'de son 20 yıldır geliştirdiğimiz demokrasi, özgürlük, refah ve güvenlik alanının daha da genişlemesi, Türkiye'den taşıp bölgemizdeki diğer devletleri, halkları olumlu şekilde etkilemesi bizim en büyük dileğimiz. Ben bu kararın samimi bir şekilde uygulanması ve diğer endişeleri de izah edici şekilde hayata